It feels, I mean, it's difficult to deal with because it is, you just know that you're under so much scrutiny from every single person that walks in the door.
Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA Podcast, and I'm your host, André Natera. Today, we welcome back for his third time on the show, Chef Evan LeRoy of LeRoy and Lewis Barbecue in Austin, Texas. He's received a Michelin star and is one of the top barbecue experts in the country. We're going to talk about his new book, The Perfect Way to Cook a Brisket, some of the challenges that come with the pressure of success, and the impact Texas barbecue has made across the nation. Stay tuned. So I was a chef, 2014. I'm on top of the world. I'm sorry, 2013. I'm on top of the world. 2014. I'm at the bottom. I've hit rock bottom, and it happened quickly. And I didn't anticipate that the person that I was in 2010, when the success started trickling in, and then it was like sipping from a fire hose by 2013.
Yeah.
The person that I was in 2010 would have not ever even believed that the person I was in 2014 existed within me, because they were completely different characters. What I learned about myself in that moment was that everyone thinks they know how they'd handle success. And it's easy to sit on the outside and say, I wouldn't do that. I would do this. It would never get the best of me. And then when it happens, the truth of the matter is you have no idea how you'd react until you're in those situations.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a mindset shift. When you're young, you're hungry, you're trying to earn it, you're trying to make that name for yourself, you're trying to just get other people to kind of see things the way that you see. And then all of a sudden, you kind of have that stuff. And there's a little bit of money in the bank account, and you kind of don't have to pull the same shifts, and you don't have to, kind of push as hard for that recognition. And it's really now for me about kind of keeping the priorities in line, as far as family, as far as myself and health, as far as the staff and the business and the restaurant, and trying to just keep everything in focus. That's really what I'm trying to do.
With all the recent success that you've had, you ever get mistaken for like Aaron Franklin?
Not quite. I mean, yeah, he's got the glasses on. Yeah. No, but I can feel the eyes on me in the restaurant for sure when I'm kind of there, like bussing tables and stuff. But no, I don't really get a case of mistaken identity, but I do have a kind of a funny story about that. I was out playing some golf with some friends of mine from out of the country. They were in town. One of them was staging at the restaurant, and we step up to the tee, the first tee, and this place, a friend of mine is the head pro there. I didn't know it was him. Like, I saw him the last time I played there, and he was like, oh, hey, and I kind of reconnected with him. And then the next time that we went there, we stepped up to the first tee, and as I put the ball on the tee in the ground, I hear over the loudspeaker, cheeks to the first tee, cheeks. And I think that it's him on the speaker, like kind of making a joke about beef cheeks, because we're known for cooking beef cheeks. And so we have a little laugh about it. And this other guy, like the fourth, there's three of us, so the fourth guy comes up, and he's a random, and his name's Terry. He's a nice guy, and we play the whole round. And then after we finish, I go in the clubhouse to kind of like have a laugh with Ian, the guy who works there, and he's not there. And I was like, is that Ian who put you up to that, who said cheeks on the first tee? And he's like, no, that's Terry. That's Terry Cheeks, who's playing with you. And so, like, Cheeks was his name. What kind of name is Terry Cheeks? But I thought that they were just like, oh, this guy's on the first. No, it's Terry Cheeks.
I can't go anywhere without people noticing me.
But yeah, just a little bit of humble pie there.
That's hilarious. Do you think that with all the success, especially with the Michelin star, what kind of pressure has that put on you? And not just put on you, but put on the team at the restaurant?
Just an enormous amount of pressure, but we're getting used to it. We're kind of all of us are getting better at our jobs. Like, as soon as it happened, this was in fall of 24, and now we're in spring of 26. So they've come around again, and we even retained the star. And so everybody's kind of used to that pressure now. We are known as like one of the only Michelin star barbecue restaurants, and we recognize that every single day in lineup. We talk about it often. We hear it from the people in line and at the restaurant. It has changed everything about our business, from the way that we approach it to the way that people see us. So it's a lot of pressure, but really the way that we deal with it is just working together, communicating, making sure that we're staying on top of our own individual jobs and showing up for each other.
What does the pressure look like on the team? Because I'm sure there's a sense of pressure that you put, like, and I don't mean like you're putting pressure on people in a negative way, but you've earned it. No one wants it to go the other way. So I'm sure there's probably an unspoken pressure that you may or may not be a part of those conversations. But amongst the team, how does that feel?
It feels, it's difficult to deal with, because you just know that you're under so much scrutiny from every single person that walks in the door. And, it's not just the food, but it's the service, it's the wait in line, it's the parking lot, it's like every single aspect of everything. Everybody is just putting under a microscope. And we have to do the same thing. When we are tasting the food every day, like all of us are, is it too tight? Is it a little bit too loose? Is it a little bit overcooked? How's the trim on this? We're just constantly looking at every single thing, tasting every single thing, dissecting every single aspect of our business, and trying to still get better.
You bring up a lot of things that are making my wheels turn, specifically when you're talking about the minutia and the details in the barbecue, like you were saying, the trim or whatever. Is there a noticeable difference in your opinion? And I'm not trying to get you in trouble, by the way, so feel free to walk the razor's edge with your answer. But is there a difference that you could notice that says, okay, this is why certain restaurants are getting a Michelin star, and here's some of the things that the other ones are potentially missing on the details?
A lot of people have asked me that question, and I don't have a very clear answer for it, because take, for example, LeRoy and Lewis and Interstellar, and you could say that, they earned a Michelin star because of kind of interesting takes, or like modernization, or kind of like more of a chefy approach. But then there's La Barbecue and Corkscrew as well, which are pretty traditional. La Barbecue obviously has ties to Louis Miller and the Miller family, and they're just like barbecue, eternal royalty. And then Corkscrew is just a really good, pretty basic barbecue restaurant outside of Houston.
Kitchens are brutal right now. Everyone knows it. Fewer people on the line, margins tighter than ever, and somehow the expectations keep going up. There's just no room to miss anymore. I was talking to a chef recently who said the biggest stress wasn't the volume, it was the mental load. Babysitting food, timing everything perfectly, trying to be everywhere at once. And that's where equipment matters more than people want to admit. Rational's technology comes up a lot in those conversations. The iCombi Pro, the iVario Pro, overnight roasts that don't need to be checked, custom programs for all your recipes, consistency without hovering, completely automated cleaning, monitoring everything from your phone, the list goes on. And what really buys you the headspace? Less standing over pans and more time to lead the kitchen instead of constantly putting out tiny fires. When you're down to cook, when the prep list is rough, when the production ramps up, think Rational.
And so there's, just from an outsider's perspective, it's hard to say what does, those places do better than, I don't know, some place like Truth or Burnt Bean or Franklin Barbecue. And it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for it.
So the conversation then revolves around, well, why do they get a bib and why do they get a star? What's the difference here? And I think the way that a lot of people understand it, which may or may not be correct, is that the bib is going to be usually a little bit more affordable. Is that what you understand as well?
Yeah, but I think you would spend probably the same amount of money at a place like Truth and a place like Corkscrew. So I think it's just a slightly lower distinction. But I think you just got to chalk it up to the palates of the Michelin inspectors and what they liked and what they didn't like.
How do you handle the conversation when people say, "Why is barbecue in the Michelin Guide?" Because I'm sure you're probably tired of talking about this, but I'm curious because I don't think we've talked about this.
Yeah. I think there's two ways to approach that, and one of the ways is here, and where we can really get deep on a conversation and talk about the fact that it is just as hard to produce this food, barbecue, for a large scale at the highest of quality, it is just as hard to do that as, do anything in a 1 Michelin star restaurant. But if somebody kind of asks me that in line and I have like a bus stuff full of dishes or something, I'm just like, I don't have time to sit there and actually like have a conversation with them, but I'm just like, I don't know, we're really lucky, I guess.
Yeah, fair. Do you think, and there's always a little bit of danger in the game that's being played.
Yeah.
Because a lot of chefs, I mean, the famously Bernard Loiseau, right? The chef that took his life in France. And then there's a lot of pressure on chefs to maintain that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's where we're going with this, but it also shapes how we cook. And you see it a lot in the 1 and 2 and 3 star world, where a lot of the food looks very similar.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain formula that chefs can look at and say, okay, if I want to get a star, I need to cook like this. I need to have a tart. I need to have a sphere. I need to have shaved truffles. I need to have A5. Like let's make sure we check all the boxes. We need to have a tableside pour. Are we using Bernardo China or whatever the case may be? There's certain things that you'd look at and say, a Michelin, like whether people will agree with me or not, it is true because I talk to a lot of Michelin star chefs. That's all I do. There is certain things that they're looking at. They're gonna say, no, get the finer China.
Yeah.
No, get the more Soigné. Are we doing linen still, or are we doing chili witch on the counters, right? So it's like things evolve, and when these things evolve, I guarantee you, all these chefs start talking. It's like, nope, this is the new, right?
This is where we're going now.
We were looking at a lot of these restaurants around the world in the 3-star space are now doing tableside foam. Right. So instead of foaming it and then it comes to the table, they're coming with the copper pot,
whip it up into a foam
already, and the foam is getting put on the dish table side. And now multiple restaurants are doing that. So that becomes the new trend. So where the danger then comes into the barbecue space is there now a point where new people coming in, or even existing barbecue restaurants, are going to say, oh, they got a star. We got to have the interesting sides. We got to do the the beets the way that you do them, or the beet barbecue sauce or anything like that. They say. So then you start to see a playbook being developed for a barbecue Michelin.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that has been happening in a different sense for probably about 10 years or more, since Franklin barbecue became really popular. And then that was the model. You had to make sure that you were trimming your briskets, like a pod, and you had to wrap it in paper. And then kind of goalies became number one, and then their method of, pepper first and whatever else that they do was like everybody, like as soon as there's like a new number one named, then you see a lot of kind of like, not necessarily exact copycats, but you see those things that are kind of popular that may be that little thing that set them apart. You see other people start to adopt that. And maybe we haven't had like a long or a big enough sample size with barbecue in Michelin yet to see people start adopting that stuff. But I mean, you see people doing stuff that we've done for a long time too, like the beef cheeks and the burger, both of which are in the book, by the way. But yeah, it's something that's unavoidable in kitchens and restaurants and in barbecue restaurants. Something new comes along and then other people start to do it.
Do you think that's, is that more dangerous?
I think I don't know if it's dangerous, but it's more boring. I think that it leads to like a monoculture of taste, when it comes to barbecue. That's why I always wanted to be different, and we always wanted to cook different food and different meats and, have basically a framework for barbecue that anybody could interpret with different cuisines and flavors. So that's like why we do that. And I really haven't seen a lot of other people kind of taking that model or method, but they do kind of take other little kind of pieces of it.
How do you continue to evolve? So do you view it as, because you do a lot of things that are very interesting. And I think you were groundbreaking in terms of, I don't want to say the burger was groundbreaking, because obviously we've had burgers before, but your fucking burger is great.
Thank you.
Really, really good. Like it's really, really good for people that haven't had it. It's excellent. Or the beef cheeks, like you were talking about earlier. There's a lot of things that you do that I think now people look as like, okay, we'll incorporate that. Is there anything that you're doing now that you're thinking, okay, how do we reinvent ourselves? Are you progressing your ideas forward with new things, or are you refining what already exists?
We are very much in a refining phase right now because we have been, so creative and kind of coming up with new things for so long. And then with all of this kind of attention and pressure with Michelin, that leads to a lot more people and guests. And we are doing just like we're busting at the seams with, storage, cold storage, people in the kitchen, like space on the pits. And so we're constantly in flux of like trying to figure out how we can just perfect everything. There's never a perfect day. There's never a perfect week, but we're just like, we're getting like really close. And then we'll have like one kind of just like crazy day. There's like this thing that's happened recently where like an influencer will come and post about our burger because it's only $10 on Monday. And that's a great deal. It's normally 16. And
I was like, what's today?
Yeah.
Oh, today's Wednesday. We're like, fuck.
We'll also have like a big something happening in Austin, whether it's Coda or MotoGP or whatever it is, and then a Monday holiday. If all those three things like happen at the same time, we will just get hammered with burgers and people just coming out of the woodwork on Mondays. And so really trying to maintain quality and serve all those people, that's been the most difficult part. And that's really what we're focused on now.
Yeah. And people are opinionated about barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everyone will tell you. I had Allie on and she was talking about her hot and fast method.
Yeah.
And then I clipped it and I put it on social media. And all these people on TikTok were like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, what the fuck you mean she doesn't know what she's talking about?
Barbecue.
Like you think she doesn't know what she's talking about? Like seriously, you think the random guy on TikTok knows more than her? Anyway, everyone's an expert. Everyone has fucking opinions. Did you see this thing on social media the other day? Someone made like a video about Terry Blacks and how it wasn't great, and then Terry Blacks clap back at him. I thought it was great.
I don't remember what they wrote, but it was kind of a funny clap back. Terry Blacks is fine for people who are just trying to come to Austin, get that barbecue experience, not wait in line forever. They got the mac and cheese, they got the brisket, they got the ribs. They were in, they were out. It's great. Yeah. But it's not the best barbecue in the world. It's definitely not. And I think that Mike and Mark and anybody else would kind of agree with that. But they serve so many people. I can't even wrap my mind around the volume that they do. And then now they have like restaurants in every city in Texas and they're expanding in Nashville. And it's like, it's a marvel to behold just the business of it. But some people on like Reddit will be like, LeRoy and Lewis not as good as Terry Blacks. They run out of everything. Well, I'll take that criticism. Yeah.
Well, who was it the other day? Was it the Sussmans?
That
posted something, which it was interesting because he's talking about why do we shame restaurants for wanting to make money? They're in business. They're not nonprofits.
Right.
I mean, a lot of restaurants are nonprofits.
not non-profitable.
Not intentionally.
Yeah.
But I feel like as an industry, sometimes we forget why we're in this. Like there is the romance of we love hospitality and we love cooking and we love feeding people and the nurturing aspect and this, that, and the other. And there's the romantic notion. If you just do that, everything will be taken care of.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you're not doing it for free because if you were, you wouldn't be in business. Right. And I think sometimes we're as an industry, sometimes we're like crabs in a bucket. Like we tear down our own because they're making money. It's like, well, no, we should be applauding them and saying, oh, look at that. Good for them. They figured it out. One of us made it out of the bucket.
Yeah, I think the thing that it was trying to get at there was because I think it was spurred on by this roast chicken discussion, like how expensive can a roast chicken be or should a roast chicken be? And I mean, I think that just comes back to the idea of people just having a specific price in their mind, like a maximum price for something in their mind.
Because they go to Costco and get it at $9 or whatever.
Yeah, or just like, whatever it's supposed to be or where, the price of X when you grew up is the maximum price that it should always or ever be. And they're not thinking about all the other things that go into it. They're not thinking about the fact that, first of all, that very expensive roast chicken is not sourced from the grocery store. It's sourced from like a ranch that is taking very good care of their animals. It has probably been, dry brined and like cooked to perfection and handled very, very well. And the people who are doing that are probably paid well, or at least hopefully, if that chicken is expensive. And then after that, the restaurant, the owner, whoever it is, like, we shouldn't be shaming people if they want to actually make money. We spend so much time in this industry kind of in a mode or in a kind of mental state of self-sacrifice, of wanting to, do the dirtier job, or kind of like wake up earlier or stay later, or just like, have that super long shift for some kind of street cred or respect. And then you get to a point where that is just not tenable anymore, and you want to enjoy your life, and your body just can't take it anymore.
Right.
And you realize that it's not about that kind of you sacrificing your mind, your body. It's about like making sure that everybody is taken care of. And part of that is making enough money to put food on your table and the people who work for you's table.
Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction. Is I think a lot of people assume the only reason we should be doing this is strictly for the love of the game.
Right.
Right. And no other industry seems to operate that way.
No, not
football players don't do it just for the love of the
no,
game. They're getting million dollar, basketball players or any other sport or any other industry. A lot of people don't do it just for the love of the game. Doctors, don't do it just for the love. I mean, maybe they do, and the pay is just icing on the cake. But 30 years in the kitchen, 7 books, 200 podcast episodes, all distills into a 5-minute daily leadership practice. It's called Lead Like a Chef. Most people who get promoted quit the industry within 2 years, not because they can't cook, but because no one taught them how to lead. I built an app that does. Lead Like a Chef. Take the free 2-minute quiz that tells you exactly where you stand. Go to studio.com/Andre. Link is in the show notes.
There's like a consumer mindset that if this place is charging X for a pound of brisket, then the owners are greedy because they are, charging way more than everybody else down the street. Well, that doesn't take into account that you got to pay for like the rent on the whole building and the banknote and the investors and pay the people to actually do the work and pay for the very expensive meat. Like there's so many more costs behind everything that people just see it like a price. And then they're like, okay, well, these people are obviously screwing us over.
I got a gripe though.
Yeah.
And by the way, my gripe is not with you.
Okay.
Because every time I go to your spot, I have to take to go, right? You always take great care of me and anyone that I bring. So I'm not complaining about you, but there's other people that I visit.
Yeah.
There's other places that I go.
Yeah.
And I think what my gripe is, and I'm a chef and I should probably know better, but you go and you order the meat. So I'm going to get some ribs or I'm going to get some brisket or whatever. And then I'm still fucking hungry.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm still hungry. It's like that wasn't enough food, and I should know better. But there's that fucking scale is like, yeah, like just give me the little,
give me a little bit extra.
Like don't just scrape it into that's gonna go in the beans or whatever. Like no, give it to me. I'll take it. Man, they're so precise.
Yeah, I mean you have to be right because think about portioning a piece of fish for a dish, and you want it to be portioned exactly 6 ounces or 4 ounces, and if you're a little bit over on however many 50 portions, that's going to add up to a lot. Barbecue is the exact same way. If you cut say we do plates, right? We do 1/4 pounds on a plate for 2 meat plate. And if you cut 0.3 and 0.3, that's going to be, if you do 100 of those plates, that's going to be a lot of barbecue that ends up not getting paid for.
Yeah.
So you got to be super precise with the scale, especially when cutting for plates. I mean, if you're just doing barbecue by the pound, then we'll call out the exact weight, and then that is what it is. But if you're cutting for like exact weights, you got to be super precise.
I think what I've discovered is like when you go to there, like a lot of places like the 2 meat plate, right? Get some brisket and maybe I get some sausage. I'm still hungry. Like I need a lot of meat plate.
A little bit of appetizers.
Yeah, like you can keep the mac and cheese, you can keep the green beans, throw some extra brisket on there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Like it's all the same price. Pasta brisket.
Yeah, exactly. just a little bit extra meat. Yeah, people ask us sometimes if they can switch out a side for another meat, and it's like, no, sorry. You can order extra meat. Don't charge you full price for it.
So obviously, being in Texas, Texas Monthly puts out their list of best barbecue, and now new game in town.
Yeah.
How has that affected the barbecue world?
That's an interesting question because, like you said, there is a new game in town. For a long time, Texas Monthly was it. It was what everybody aspired to. It was the biggest game changer. If you made it on the list or top 10, then it would really affect your business in a positive way. And now there's Michelin stars, and it's even more exclusive, but it is this whole other thing that can change the life of your business. And to me, it's exciting because there's another kind of thing to aspire to. There's another kind of like tier, or like, there's another thing that you can kind of achieve, in this industry. But I don't know how it is affecting the way that other people run their businesses or cook. But I think it's good for competition. I think it's good for just the state of barbecue in general.
Yeah. In general, and if you had to be the spokesperson for the entire barbecue community,
Oh no.
which one are you generally after? Are you after the Michelin star, or are you after the #1 spot on the Texas Monthly?
Well,
like which one are you celebrating more?
Yeah. Well, we definitely celebrated the Michelin star, and we're still celebrating that every day, but we haven't gotten #1. So that's something that we're still striving toward. That's something that we're still focused on, is getting better. And, really it would be amazing. It would really be a crowning achievement for everybody on our team.
Who's #1 last time?
It was the burnt bean in Seguin.
How far have you gotten up the list?
So we're #2. We were #5 in 21, the highest a food truck has ever been. And then this past year in 25, we were right behind the burnt bean at #2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does it feel weird to look at someone like Aaron, or a lot of these other pioneers and people that you looked up to, and now they're your friend? You send them memes.
Yeah. I don't even know if Aaron Franklin knows what a meme is.
I'm just saying.
Barely does email. But yeah, dude, it's really cool. Yeah. The fact that, there was one point where I was nervous to meet Wayne Miller and Aaron Franklin and Billy Durney and, Sam Jones and these guys. And now I can call them, or I can, just send them a happy birthday text or whatever it is. And so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, you're killing it.
Thank you.
You are absolutely killing it. I want to ask you about the book.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, by the way.
Thank you very much.
People can see that.
Yeah.
Here on the camera, so it's on both. Beautiful book.
Thank you.
And I've flipped through it.
You got your copy coming in the mail.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Is it out officially?
It comes out May 12th. I wrote it with Paula Forbes. She is a cookbook expert and has written a few other cookbooks and helped on a lot of other cookbooks. And kind of in the process of us writing it, she got promoted to a senior food editor, I think, at Texas Monthly. Mm-hmm. So she knows her stuff about barbecue. She knows her stuff about cookbooks. And it's kind of crazy how many people it takes to put together a cookbook. I thought that you had an idea, you write the recipes, you take the photos over time and then kind of send it off and it comes back. But it's like starting a business. You have to have like a pitch deck, and you have to have like all this research and data, and then you got to go sell it to somebody. And then after that, there's a whole team of people at the publisher that you're working with, not to mention setting up the entire photo shoot, which takes days, and another whole team and thousands of dollars. It was a crazy undertaking. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's going to be out soon.
How long was the start to finish process?
3 years.
Whoa.
So it's like a year to put the pitch together and to get it sold, and then a year to write all the recipes. And then we did the photo shoot over 10 days. We did 10 setups, which take about an hour, and we did that 10 days in a row. And funny enough, during one of the most important days when we're shooting brisket and beef cheeks, it was the same day that Daniel Vaughn, the barbecue editor of Texas Monthly, was making his like final rounds for the top 50 list. And so one of the only times I've needed to be in two places at the same time. So I have my friend Brad, who is called out in the book, and who has.
Did she tip him off?
No.
Hey, we're sharing photos. Go today.
But Brad helped carve the stuff at the photo shoot, and I was able to go to the restaurant and make sure that everything looked good for Daniel. But, you know, it takes so many people to put a cookbook out there that I'm amazed that anybody can do it, let alone myself. So
Yeah, it's wild. And I was flipping through it, and I think for people that don't know, the recipes in there are exactly the recipes you want to have.
Oh, yeah.
As a chef or as someone who loves to cook, it's like, oh, the burgers in there.
Yeah.
I saw that in there. You had the tri-tip in there. And,
Oh, yeah.
You know, everything's in there. And I was like, oh, shit, you're holding nothing back.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of barbecue recipes in there. Obviously, it's a barbecue book, but they're a lot of them are centered around the same ideas of like, if it's a steak or if it's something like that, you smoke it to temperature and then you finish it over a fire in a pan for like crisp and, you know, making the crust in the Maillard. And it's similar for other things you want to cook to tenderness, right? You can get some kind of color on it or kind of treat the smoking process as like a long sear to develop your bark and then wrap it up and cook it to tenderness. So they're all pretty kind of basic concepts, but really I wanted to lay them out in different ways so people can kind of wrap their mind around it and understand it and kind of see barbecue the way that I do.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. I was skimming. I don't remember which recipe I came across, but it said, you know, the Dalmatian mix.
Yeah.
Right. Which it's funny because as I read that, I was like, I don't know what the ratio is on the Dalmatian mix, but I'm pretty sure it's salt and pepper.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pretty sure it's salt and pepper.
Yeah.
But in my first book that I wrote, one of my original chef's PSAs in the red book that I wrote was never mix your salt and pepper.
Yeah.
But there's a caveat in there that says unless you're a barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Like, 'cause I remember I got a lot of, well, what about barbecue? It's like, yeah, well, I'm talking about like everything but that.
Right.
Or like the, you know, the place where, or the place where it's appropriate. And my friend David Breeden, who I wrote, he's in the first book that I wrote. It's a call out to him because I didn't write his name in the book. But I wrote, one of my chef friends who's a very good chef said, but the most fun places to work are where you mix your salt and pepper.
Yeah, they are.
Like, it's true. Like, that's where you have the most fun cooking.
Yeah, I've worked in a few of those places. Yeah, my very first restaurant was like this kind of greasy spoon, like seafood place in Tallahassee, Florida, and they mix the salt and pepper there. I was like a grill cook, like grilling up grouper fillets and stuff for sandwiches, and definitely mix the salt and pepper there.
I remember we were opening one of the restaurants, and I'm going through all the rules of the kitchen, you know, doing orientation for, you know, the staff. And I said, we don't mix our salt and pepper here. You know, we have, you know, black Peugeot pepper mills.
Yeah.
And we use, you know, diamond crystal for this, and we use, you know, Maldon for that, or whatever the breakdown was at that particular moment. And my rhetorical question to the team was, because what's the exact recipe for salt and pepper that seasons everything perfectly?
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the cooks raised his hand. Someone, you know, is a new hire, and he's like, it's actually, he gave the grit. I don't remember what he said. It's actually 75% by weight. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, that's my point.
There's no right answer. The right answer is shut up and listen.
Yeah. But for you, there is a right answer in the way that you cook. Not just, I'm assuming, for efficiency, for scale, when you have to do all this protein, but so it's efficiency and it's also flavor.
It's efficiency, flavor, and, you know, the flavor aspect, it's not just how it tastes, but it's kind of the texture of it too.
Yeah.
Because it's a specific salt and pepper. It's diamond crystal, which is common enough, but it's also 16 mesh ground pepper, and that is going to give you that really nice, like, sturdy bark that you want on brisket, on beef cheeks, on the burgers, and those are kind of the three main things that we use it for. And we make it in big batches and just toss everything in there, like completely coat the brisket, coat the beef cheeks, coat the burgers. So it's formulated to be a seasoning that is like perfect for certain meats, because it's going to season the outside and give you as much pepper as you need on there and not too much. It's going to be perfectly seasoned because that's what's going to stick to it.
If you had to give an audio masterclass on cooking brisket for people that are listening, if you could geek out and take our audience. Our audience, I'm assuming, is mostly chefs and cooks.
Yeah.
They might not all have smokers, but if you had to give general advice for most likely the best results that people would very much enjoy a good brisket, how would you take them from arriving in a package to done?
Well,
feel free to
all right.
Feel free to geek out too.
Okay, here we go.
I'd appreciate it.
So first, you're going to start with the type of brisket that you have, and you're going to want a packer brisket, decal removed. That means all the fat from the lean side, from the bottom, what I think of as the bottom, and all that stuff is like part of. Let me back up and pause here, because part of what makes talking about brisket difficult is that we talk about the point and the flat, which are the two different muscles, or the fatty and the lean, but there's not a lot of terminology for the different sides of it. And what I lay out in here is like the tip and the end. And like when you're trimming, you need to kind of work toward the tip or like shape the end. So kind of labeling those and making sure that there's clear terminology for all the parts of a brisket was kind of the first step that I did in here.
Yeah, I saw the diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
So you're going to start with a packer brisket. You want it to be as fatty as you can get it within, reasonable amounts. You're not going to go for like an A5 Wagyu brisket. That's just not something that you're going to want to cook. But you're probably going to get it from the grocery store, or Costco, or something like that. Or bring it in. Prime would be kind of what I would be looking for, around a 13 to 14 pound starting brisket. That's what you're going to go for at first. Then, as far as trimming goes, you want it to kind of be shaped into a pod-like shape. If you think about those car commercials with the air kind of blasting on it and how it flows over, that's how the smoke and the heat is working inside of a offset pit. Now, we've talked a little bit about brisket, but there's also we can talk about offset pits, reverse flow pits, direct heat pits, rotisserie pits. But for this sake, we're just talking about offset pits. And that's how you want to trim it for an offset pit, because the smoke is going to be kind of hitting the front of it, or like that fatty side, that fatty tip. And you don't want any kind of like 90-degree angle where it's just going to butt up against it and then not have anywhere to go, because that corner that's created like that is a lot of surface area and not a lot of meat underneath. And that's going to get crispy, and it's just not going to render right, and it's not going to be very good. So make sure that it's in the right shape. Make sure that the correct amount of fat has been taken off the fatty side of it, and we like to leave about 1/4 of an inch. And I say that, but there's a lot of ways you can go about that. I specifically like to use a 6-inch boning, like a stiff blade boning knife, and kind of work from the center of the brisket out toward the edges. Peeling off like a little by little. You can go from the end of it kind of all the way up to the tip. But really what you want to do is make sure that you're kind of curving the blade down along with the muscle of the brisket to make sure that you're shaping it in the correct way. So there's also this really big kind of fatty piece on the back, on the bottom of a brisket. It's really hard fat where the two muscles come together. And there's like a natural separation in there that if you can kind of pull it out a little bit, you can see that natural separation. You can seam that little piece out. If you don't take that piece out, your first, best, most amazing, picture perfect slice on a brisket is going to have like a big fat chunk on the bottom of it, and it's going to be too much fat and not a good eating experience. So we take out that whole piece, and then we clean up the kind of back, any shaggy pieces left from the fatty decal. And then we do the kind of top trimming, the trimming of the fat, like I was telling you about. And then we kind of shape it like that pod. So you get the brisket, you trim it. Now we go into seasoning, and we use just our Dalmatian rub in the seasoning. But
Is it 50-50?
It is not 50-50. It's 2-to-1 volumetric of the 16 mesh black pepper to diamond crystal kosher salt. And there's exact like grammed out measurements for that in here, but since we came up with this rub since the very beginning of the food truck in the business, that's how we've been measuring it out. Just like 2 quarts, 1 quart in a bus tub, mix it up, and then you put your whole brisket in that bus tub and just season every single part of it.
So you're like rolling it in there.
Rolling it, yeah. Make sure that every single inch is covered. And a lot of people do a slather, and that's to kind of make rub stick to it. But we find that if you trim them up and you keep them covered and they don't dry out, then you don't really need another slather. And that's just an extra step that we don't see as necessary. So we cover it with Dalmatian rub. And it's popular now in barbecue to use different seasonings and different rubs and to kind of layer them. But we find the best and easiest way and most consistent is to just cover every single inch of it. You definitely want to make sure you get the sides of your brisket. That is where the burn ends come from. And you don't want the best, most delicious seasoned bite to not have any seasoning on it. And then you're ready to smoke. And it depends on what kind of smoker you're using. It depends on what kind of wood you're using. But we use post oak wood. We don't put anything else in our pits. We have a 1,000-gallon offset where we cook all of our briskets.
Can we stop on wood for a moment?
Yeah.
Is there wood? So you said you're using post oak, common in Texas.
Yep.
Is there a wood that you say, but don't ever use this?
I don't like the flavor of mesquite on barbecue. You don't want to. You have to use hardwood. You can't use any softwoods. Like you can't use like any pine or cedar or anything like that. It's going to be too resinous and gross. It's going to taste awful. I think mesquite is a little too strong for barbecue, but I like it for grilling. I would never put another piece of wood that's not post oak inside of our pits because it'll start to take on that flavor. Like as soon as one stick goes in there, it's gonna it'll be inside the pit and it will taste different.
It's like the Chinese master stock.
Yeah.
They're always
Yeah.
popping it off a little bit.
Exactly.
Like
Don't mess with it.
flavor is being built up here. Sorry.
But then you will cook your brisket. We start ours very, very low. We start a very small fire at about 150 degrees after we put all the briskets on because we want the meat and the temperature of the pit to come up at the same time, like we're cooking a potato in water. You don't put a potato in hot water because the outside is going to get cooked and mushy before the inside. Kind of the same thing with a brisket. If you just shock it with that heat, the outside is going to start to cook a lot faster than the inside. So we're trying to bring the temperature of everything up at the same time, probably 50 degrees an hour for the first couple hours until we hit about 275. And then we rock there for all day long.
50 degrees an hour. So, I mean, this is detail.
Yeah. We're not even halfway done yet.
Sorry.
And throughout the cook, after we get a good amount of smoke on them and we reach 275, we'll start rotating them. And then that means the front row will go to the back and then all the other rows move up. But then the inside columns will move out and the outside columns will move in because there's different heat transfer happening near the walls because they are hot and they've heated up and they're radiating heat than there is in the center where there's also more airflow. So we have to keep rotating those in and out along with back to front. And then at a certain point, when we hit around internal temperature of 175 degrees in the flat of the brisket, they've gone through all the color changes that we want. They have shrunken considerably.
What are the color changes that you're looking for? And then is there a smell that you're looking for? And obviously not the smoker smell, but is there a smell that, does it change?
Yeah, it changes significantly toward the end.
Yeah.
But they'll go from raw looking to like a mahogany and then a light brown and then a dark brown and then pretty like jet black. Like a brisket looks. And as soon as it gets black, it'll start to kind of sweat and shimmer. And that's a lot of the fat and juices kind of being pushed out. And once that happens, you will go through a period called the stall, which happens because of evaporative cooling. That fat and moisture will leach out the top. And then the evaporative cooling that, once that is evaporated off the brisket, it'll cool down a little bit. And that's what happens during the stall. But after after that happens, you wrap it up, you push through that until it gets tender around 200, 205 degrees is right around there. And then you pull it off and you let it rest.
So the very first person that taught me how to cook brisket, and I won't say his name because I don't want you to get mad at him.
Okay.
But he's in the barbecue world. He said the second it's over 190, it's past the stall, and then it's okay after that. How accurate is that statement?
I mean, I don't have the like graph data to say exactly that, but I know that we usually stall out around 165, and so we like to say 175, 180. We're kind of past that, and as soon as you notice that it's growing in temperature, then you'll be past the stall. But if you're paying attention to the other cues, you will notice that before that happens.
Are you I know you're a foil bowl guy.
Yeah.
But we're teaching the general.
Sure.
We're
Yeah.
teaching everybody. Are you a wrap it or don't wrap it for the general public?
So for the general public, I would say wrapping is beneficial because it can kind of fix some mistakes, or it can help you kind of speed along the cook, or it can help retain some moisture. That thing that you're going to sacrifice is that texture that we love, that crunchy bark, when the pepper and the salt and that fat during the higher heat of the end of the cook, it gets kind of crispy. And that's what we want on the brisket, is that crunchy bark, rendered fat, tender meat.
From the time that you pull it out of, by the way, you said you were going to mention the smell. That
Oh
changes.
yeah. Sorry. So when it's almost done, you'll have this kind of rounded, roasty kind of. It doesn't necessarily smell like barbecue anymore. It smells like a different kind of roasted, like beef, almost like a sweet kind of caramelized smell.
So Leo was on here. He said chocolate.
Yeah, some people say it smells like chocolate, or some people say it smells like chocolate chip cookies. But it is that kind of sweeter, kind of dark, roasty, almost coffee kind of smell that happens when I don't even know what it is, but I think it's like the juices inside might hit a certain temperature and them kind of falling on like a higher metal, like a higher heated metal of the bottom of the pit. I think that might be something with it, but I don't know. They do smell a little bit different when you're taking them off. And you can tell a little bit that they're getting close or when they're ready, just kind of based on that smell.
So I had Jess on here. We were talking meat science, and she said that one of the more interesting things that's happening right now in barbecue that people should really look at is the resting period. She says, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, but she says that's where some magic is really happening.
Oh yeah.
So can you talk about, once you're pulling it out, what does the resting period look like? What's the importance of it, and what are some general guidelines for the resting process?
So this depends on the time of year as well, because we will pull our briskets off when they're tender. And then if it's cold outside, we will want to rest them inside of the pit trailer where it's still like a little bit warm. But if it's hot outside in the summer, we will take them inside to rest where it's more tempered, because inside the pit can get like 110, 120. And we don't want them carrying over even farther. We want to kind of halt that cooking process, rest it down to 140. And then we'll put it into a warmer at 140, 145, and it'll stay there until the next day, where we cut everything up by like 3 o'clock.
And what's it affecting most, that rest process? Is it juiciness? Is it texture? Is it all of the above?
It's juiciness and texture for sure. I know that the, kind of saying that the juices are redistributing is not like exactly 100% correct, but there's like a settling down and kind of like, when everything is kind of moving fast and like there's a lot of heat within the piece of meat, there's like, that it spills out. You cut into something and like juices, fat, liquid from inside the meat just like spills out. So you need to let it rest. That long heated rest, I don't know exactly what it does, but there's some kind of magic that happens. And it's not just pieces cooked to that temperature, because we have noticed that with our tri-tips as well. We bring tri-tip on at night. And at first we were cooking them kind of late in the day and then just serving them. But then there was one day where somebody just like left one in the warmer on accident. And then we tried it the next day, and it was the most tender and delicious piece of tri-tip that we'd ever had. And it was cooked to 140. And so we started cooking them earlier, and then they rest in the warmer at 140 through all of lunch. And then by the time we get to them, they've had like a nice long rest, and we just cut into them and they're perfect and tender.
Is there a general rule that you go by for resting, like about an hour, 2 hours, percentage of cooking time?
I mean, I always say that if the piece of meat that you're cutting is too hot to hold, then it's too hot to cut. You want to just be able to hold it indefinitely in like a gloved hand. But for the sake of how good you can make a brisket, we always say overnight. Overnight is the best rest. I don't know exactly, the perfect amount of time, but I know it's not just rest down to temperature. Like it's got to have kind of an extended rest. And I don't know exactly what happens in that time, but there's some kind of magic that just makes it really good.
There is. And to your point, I agree with you. Like I've seen these very scientific videos of breaking down, does the rest matter? And it's the juice distribution is not true and it's a myth and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm a chef and I know it fucking matters. Yeah. Like you can say all you want. I know it fucking matters. I've seen it with my own eyes. You can say whatever you want. Yeah. I know if you pull it off and you cut it, or if you let it rest, the meat looks different, it tastes different, it cuts different, all of that. So say all you want, and you can show me the scales, and you can say science says otherwise. I don't believe you.
I know.
I'm a fucking science denier when it comes to rested meat.
Dude, me too. You're exactly right. You have to rest it. That long heated rest does some kind of magic to barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that process. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be like in the comments say, hey, he's fucking wrong.
Well, there's, barbecue used to be pretty inconsistent based on what time you go get it. Like you used to go to a barbecue place, like a classic barbecue place. If you get there, this is still the case with some of these old school joints like Lockhart or Luling. You get there early, it's really good because it's pretty fresh and you're cutting into it like a barbecue chicken or something like that. But if you get there later in the afternoon, it's not quite as good. Maybe oxidized piece, you get.
Yeah.
But now that we're trying to strive for consistency across the board, and nobody wants to, get up at midnight to cook stuff to have ready at like 11 a.m., we'd rather do that during the day, rest it overnight, and then have it the next morning ready. And then the benefit of that is that it's even better and it's more consistent. So you're getting the same thing at 11 a.m. when you first open and 3 p.m. when you're cutting your last slice of brisket.
I saw a video the other day. It was an LA barbecue food truck, and unfortunately, I don't know what it was. It looked good. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I didn't try it. I was just watching the video, and I was like, it was in Compton, and they were talking about this barbecue truck in Compton, and they had their brisket and their ribs and a couple of I think they had oxtails as well.
Nice.
It was their thing. Are you noticing as barbecue is really taking off, and especially with the Michelin stars? Mm-hmm. And there's obviously different styles of barbecue, whether we're talking the Carolinas or KC or whatever. But are you noticing that Texas barbecue is actually the one that's taking off nationally?
Oh yeah, Texas is the one nationally, internationally. Texas barbecue is the one that's gaining the most popularity, and that is evidenced by the fact that if you open up a barbecue restaurant anywhere in the United States and you don't have brisket on the menu, people are going to get upset. Yeah. And that is the most clear, example of that, I think. Because if you just opened up a Carolina-style barbecue joint in any other state, I think that people would still come in looking for brisket because they've seen the trays on social media, they've seen all the shows, they've seen that brisket, and that's what they want.
It's like we were talking earlier. It's the formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the formula for barbecue. For opening up a barbecue restaurant, do you check these boxes, right? If they're playing that game. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone or any city right now that outside of Texas that's doing things that you're saying that's super interesting? That's you're maybe looking at saying, wow, that might be something that we consider later on.
I think there's a lot of cool things happening in South Carolina right now. I think Elliot Moss, who's a friend of mine, has a new place called Elliot's in Florence, South Carolina, which is a pretty small town, but that's where he's from. And he had a restaurant years ago called Buxton Hall, which was so good and had a lot of publicity, but this place is his, and he's cooking his food and he's kicking ass at it. And also my friend Robbie, who has City Limits Barbecue in Columbia, another incredible chef, multi James Beard nomination. He takes just such close attention and care to all the food that he makes. And if you're going to talk about South Carolina, Lewis Barbecue, John Lewis, he's kind of one of the biggest guys out there. He's been there for a few years. Palmyra Barbecue with Hector Garate. they do stuff a lot similar to us. They do beef cheeks, they do whole hog. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening in South Carolina, Charleston.
What other one of the things that I want to ask you is, with success comes pressure. How do you handle the pressure, and what do you do for yourself, for people that are listening? Because there's levels of pressure. You know, the line cook faces pressure from, you know, for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they're not getting paid enough, they can't pay their bills, or maybe it's just the pressure of not knowing and the learning curve and the amount of work that they have to do and restless sleep. But you have a different level of pressure in different positions. In your position, you're an entrepreneur. You're now a celebrity chef. You have the pressure of Michelin. You're releasing a cookbook. You're everywhere on social media. You also have to deal with this public-facing image that you probably. I mean, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Like, you're pretty much the same guy on the podcast that you are off the podcast when I talk to you.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that are not.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But how do you deal with all of this now? What are you doing for yourself? And what are some of the things that stress you out? And do you ever feel like, I need a break?
Yeah. Man, that's so complicated and loaded. The pressure thing is unique at the position that I'm in right now, because we obviously have a lot of pressure from Texas Monthly #2, Michelin Guide. The restaurant's busier than it's ever been. Everything, costs on everything are through the roof, labor, food, everything. But I'm also facing like an internal pressure of feeling like I'm not really doing anything sometimes. Like, I go into work and all the positions are covered well. I'm checking in with all the team, and they seem to be doing pretty well, seem to be keeping a clean kitchen and getting their tasks done. The management staff seems to be in a good mood, and orders are coming in, and everybody is accounted for. Nobody's calling out. Everybody in line is being talked to and getting their drinks, and they've been greeted. I go to bus tables, and there's like, I constantly am looking for something to do to keep myself busy, and the team has mostly taken care of it. And so when I don't have anything to do, I think that I'm kind of useless. I'm like, what am I even doing here? Should I be, and then I kind of go and look in the corners, right? I'll go into the walk-in and look for something wrong, or look for something misplaced, or I'll go into the dry storage, or I'll go take a lap around the park. And then I kind of think to myself, I'm like, I'm picking up trash in the parking lot. Like, should I be doing this? Is this the best use of my time? And so it's a weird mental gymnastics that I play with myself of like trying to be present, but also trying to be present at work, for the team members that are there, for the guests that are there who kind of, I think, want to see me there doing work. And then also, doing enough to where I feel like I'm making a difference, or feel like I'm actually helping the people at work. And then if everything is taken care of, then I'll go home and do some, emails, or do whatever else is on my long to-do list. And then I feel like I'm still not doing enough because I'm not at the restaurant, even though I know that everything's taken care of. I don't know. I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, to where there's this like self-sacrificing thing in restaurants. So you feel like you always got to be putting yourself in just like a difficult situation to kind of work your way out of. And I haven't fully like grasped how that affects me.
What I'm hearing is, and the way I'm interpreting it, is that you're good at your job.
Thank you.
And I know that I know that's difficult to hear sometimes as a chef, because I've gone through the same thing as you. It's like, what am I going to do today? Does anyone need help? No, we're good, chef. And it's like, all right. Like, and like, does anyone need anything from me?
Yeah.
But I think that's because you've set up systems, you've trained your team properly. You don't have that turnover. They're not leaving. They're coming into work properly trained, enthusiastic about doing their job, and they're executing it as well as you've trained them.
Yeah, but that trauma of me being that cook and being so weeded, and then seeing the owner of the restaurant playing video games on their phone at the bar is still like right here. Like I can still see it like it was yesterday. And I can't be that guy to the people who are giving everything for me at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So I don't play video games at the bar.
That's good. I did the corner. No, but I could tell you that from my own experience, is it sounds like you are running a very efficient operation, and you should be proud of that.
Thank you. I
I
mean,
mean, you have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the positive aspect of that is that I'm spending more time with my family than I have in the past however many years since we had a food truck. I'm able to go to the gym and take care of myself, and my mental health is actually, aside from what we've just talked about, pretty good because things are going well, and I can spend time with the family and have enough time to myself. The only really difficult parts is when it's just so crazy at work, and that I mean, my job is such that I'm not in the kitchen as much anymore, but I'm out in the dining room and I'm talking to guests, and that's the thing I'm worst at. And so that is like, if you talk to a guest that is not having a good time, that's just going to wreck my entire day, probably my whole week. Yeah. And like, I'll think about that nonstop. I'll be looking at the reviews later, just waiting for something to pop up. But I don't know. I think most of the time I'm okay.
Yeah. So what do you do to unwind besides to get out of the restaurant and unwind?
I mean, mostly hang out with the family. My daughter's 7 years old, and she likes hanging out with me. We like going out to dinner. I like to work out and go to the gym. I like to play golf. I like to fish. I like to be outside.
Do you eat barbecue outside of?
Hell yeah.
You do?
Barbecue. Yeah, I love barbecue.
Well, I know. Because sometimes, I mean, you and I both know there's people that do it and they're like, I can't eat this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so we don't. It's hard for me to eat a lot of barbecue, but I like going to other people's places. I like supporting other people. I like kind of, I'm friends with almost everybody in the industry. So I go to visit somebody, it's like going to see a friend for lunch.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you get some good food too. Mm-hmm. We don't serve pork ribs really because we only bring in half hogs. And I've gone through this many times before, but we serve whole hog because we break them down in house, whatever. But I love going out to eat pork ribs at barbecue restaurants because we don't have them in house all the time. We don't serve potato salad. So I'll go to a barbecue restaurant and be very happy eating ribs and potato salad, which sounds like a nightmare for somebody like Leo, right?
Yeah. That's funny. When I think about like all the great chefs in barbecue, obviously you're up there, Allie's up there, Aaron Franklin's up there, Leo's up there. There's a lot of really great people that are just moving barbecue forward. So I think on behalf of people that could not, I'm barely fit to like tie your shoes, in your world. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea how to do what you do, and it's very impressive. And the book's impressive. And thank you for moving the industry forward.
Yeah.
So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. We got to have you back. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
For people that want to get the book, that want to follow you on social media, and maybe want to go eat your food, or maybe want to come work for you, where can they find all of that?
Well, you can find me online on Instagram at Evan LeRoy Barbecue. You can follow LeRoy and Lewis on Instagram at LeRoy and Lewis. The book is going to be out May 12th. Anywhere books are sold, you can buy one in the restaurant. It'll be a signed copy. You can buy it on Amazon or your local retailer. If you want, you pre-order. I don't know when this is going to come out, but if you want, you can pre-order it. And it
should be out.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Pre-order, do it. And then the restaurant is in South Austin, just off of Stastny and Emerald Forest. So hit me up, shoot me a message, get the book, come see us.
So this is your third time on the show, by the way.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, go back and listen to the other two. You're in a very select group of people that have been on. I'm trying to think. So you got Gabe Morales, Rico Torres, yourself, Dan Kennedy. Nice. Philip Franklin Lee, and I think that's it.
That's good company. I'm a fan of Dan Kennedy. I want to meet him. I follow him a lot. He seems like a cool guy.
I was talking to him on the phone as I was driving up to do this podcast with you. And I said, do you guys know each other? He's like, no, but I'm a fan of his work. So he said the exact same thing about you. So
Awesome,
there you go.
All
All right, Chef. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chef's PSA, go to chefspsa.com, get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No André in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction. Stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, classes in session.